The Board of Zoning Appeals for May 10th is now back in session. I would like to ask Mr. Skozak and Mr. Shamoun to please come up, please. Is anyone here representing the third case?
Oh, this is the second. This is not.
No, I understand.
Okay,
This was,
okay.
I would like you.
He must have
They
stepped
stepped
out.
out.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were here, I believe they left.
Okay. Well, that answers that question.
They were sitting in front and just with the timeline going. I believe they left.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay.
Who left?
Number
I'm sure
two.
they're
Number
probably
3?
outside.
Yep.
Really?
Mr. Chairman, before we get started on the second one, I am going to make a request of Mr. Sweeney to recuse himself from this, so I'm going to ask the applicant, would you like to go forward with the board with 4 members, or would you like to continue this to another hearing to allow 5 members to be here?
Force time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, please state your name and address and confirm you've been sworn in.
Okay, my name is Daniel Skozik. My address is 9945 Campton Ridge Drive, Chardon, Ohio. And this is...
You've been sworn in, we just need...
Yes, and I've been sworn in.
Okay, go ahead. Anyone that comes up that speaks, they'll state their name and address for the record.
Okay, I think you want to go first.
Yes,
All right.
please.
I have also been sworn in. I'm Karen Laskozik. I'm also at the same address of 9945 Campton Ridge in Chardon. And I just asked to start first because I get too nervous and wanted to get my part over with here. Over a year ago, we decided that we wanted to move from Geauga County into Lake County because I'm a teacher at Riverside Local Schools. And we started looking for lots. We found a lot in this development of Noble Ridge that we just fell in love with. We kept walking it. It was an unusual shaped lot. So it had a drop off kind of on the one side and in the back of the property. But we just loved the idea. We went over, would park and take a walk and saw different age people living in the neighborhood, met some of the neighbors, and thought it was a very welcoming community. So because it was an odd shape, my husband had the soil tested, and we looked at plans online and hired a surveyor to come lay out different things to make sure we could even build the house. It was supposed to be our house of our dreams on that lot, and to see if it was possible. We were ready to basically start clearing when we got a letter from the Homeowners Association making us aware of this riparian setback. So my husband will speak to what we've done since that time, but it is, I guess, our hope that we'll be able to, with these new changes and asking for this permit today, that we can start clearing and building this home. This isn't how I wanted to meet our new neighbors, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I'm asking for 2 variances to allow for the construction of a single-family dwelling with a 45-foot riparian setback in lieu of the 50. And secondly, to allow for a 45-foot front building setback in lieu of the 50, and a 10-foot side yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot required. And I think you have a couple of drawings there, like old plans and new plans. And basically, I know you can't see this, but you should have a copy of this right there. But we redesigned the house. We had a covered terrace in the corner, and Harry Jones is here, my surveyor. And when we learned about the riparian setback, the covered terrace was about 13, 14 feet, in the setback. And then we also had our garage that was in violation of the riparian setback by about the same number of feet. So we basically moved the covered deck, we shrunk down the garage and moved it over in front of the house. And we engineered a cantilevering system where the joists are going to hang over the foundation 2 feet on the side. And so this is, when this is all said and done, basically, you've got a slight amount of the foundation under a foot touching the corner, in the back right corner of the house. You have about 1 foot of the garage that's touching the corner, in the back right corner. And then on the front, I'm asking for the 5-foot variance to the 50-foot front setback, because we've got about 2 feet or a foot and a half of the garage, the corner, that touches that front yard setback. I have been in to see Heather a couple times to try to get educated on the riparian setbacks. In the last setback I'm asking for is to move the side yard from 15 feet to 10, because that obviously moves my property further away from the setback. And it was indicated to me that it was better to ask for possibly a side yard setback than asking for a 10-foot riparian, a 40-foot versus a 45. So I think we closed on the lot. We signed the contract on the lot, I think it was in May. The lot closed about a month or 6 weeks later, so we had no idea that this rule was coming. Harry, is there anything you want to?
If you're gonna, Harry, please come up and name and address and confirm.
I'm Harry Jones, 1924 Minter Avenue, Painesville, and I've been previously sworn in. Mr. Leskozik has really went through a lot of effort to redesign the house to fit this property, and based upon the riparian setbacks on side yards and front setback. And he's really worked really hard with his architect to get a house that him and his wife are very comfortable with. And we duly respect the variance in reference to what's been requested. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? Anything or Blair? Chris?
No, it's nice to see that the effort was put into, to make the best of conditions and restrictions that are imposed by the lot topography and the riparian requirements, so that is appreciated.
Yeah, one question, Mr. Leskozik, you mentioned that it was May 2016, there you are, sorry, that you purchased the home, correct?
Well,
Or purchased the lot, I'm sorry.
Correct.
And then you closed on it within a couple weeks, but prior to the enactment of the regulation?
Yes.
Okay,
Good?
that's the only question I had.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, can be seated. Is there anyone else here speaking for or against this appeal that would like to come up?
My name is Douglas Black. I live at 11785 Brooklyn Court, and I have been sworn in. Wanted to thank you for the opportunity to pass along a couple of things that we have noted in the course of the discussions and in trying to research this. First of all, we're looking at, although there are 2 numbers involved, there are really 3 variances involved. A setback in the front, a riparian, and a setback on the other side. So therefore, we are, in essence, redoing what the zoning commission did by asking you to do away with everything on the side and the front, leave the back alone. The front setback of only 45 feet will dramatically visually alter the continuity and the character of the area, in that very small piece of land that's in front is right at the arc of our cul-de-sac. So the closer you get visually, the more that's going to change the character of all the other, versus all the other homes in the area that maintain that 50-foot setback. The variance on the residential side, which is the side upon which we currently reside, my wife and I,
So you live at
in the property.
Sublot 28?
Correct.
Thank you.
On the residential side, much like the riparian side, is not a 5-foot, is not a 15-foot setback, but is now a 10-foot requested on both sides. What they're asking for represents a reduction of 33% of the total setback on both sides, so that they can put their dream house on it. We in the neighborhood, of course, are in favor of people who find that area worth building a dream house in.
Are you representing the whole neighborhood?
No,
Okay.
but I will say that I, myself, have lived there for 11 years and find the area to be a dream. The full depth of the future structure, as it's outlined in the map that you have there, will basically encompass the bulk of the property line, merely 10 feet from what will be our driveway. The future structure significantly closer to the property line than any other residence that currently is in Noble Ridge. So this is not just a variance from the standard, but it's a variance for the current existing development. To grant 3 requested variances violates the intent of the zoning regulations. At an early stage, which we are right now, obviously there's still corrective action that can be taken. I recognize the fact and appreciate the fact that they have put an immense amount of time in redesigning and believe, because we haven't dug a shovel's worth of dirt yet, that there are possibilities still available to them because their capital commitment has not been that great to establish a major hardship. We are a good group of folks in that neighborhood, as they said. We like to believe that. And we believe that if we continue to maintain the zoning as it currently exists without having to alter significantly, as much as 10% in front, 33% on each side, that we will continue to have the dream house area that we currently live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Black, if I'm looking at this correctly, your concrete driveway is right on the property line, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I have, thanks.
Thank you.
I've been duly sworn in. My name is Nancy Campbell. I live at 7622 Kenneth Drive, across the street from this property. And, you know, people have been talking about the neighborhood, so I thought I would give you some pictures of what we have now. The cul-de-sac.
He's not part of this.
I know. He doesn't know the neighborhood anymore.
I know.
That's like setbacks for sides. There's front yard setbacks. Here is, and this might help you if I can get a little closer. This is the Black's property line. This is the proposed builder's property line. That's the corner of his house. So you know, I don't know if my camera catches what it is, you know, and if you can get some idea. This is the property that's to be built on. This is the cul-de-sac with 2 houses in the back that are back so far you can't even see it. Last group talked about erosion. Some of the people that are on the side of this property have erosion already. This here used to be able to walk 2 people. They can't anymore because it's falling into the ravine. And this is looking at the cul-de-sac from the 2 houses up on top of the cul-de-sac. I object to the 5-foot set, change in the side setback because that creates no buffer. I mean, if I was, and it doesn't affect me, but how are you going to plant trees or anything to try to hide the whole side of that house when there's no buffer zone there? They're going, 33%. I'm not blaming Dad about the riparian setback because I understand he probably is grandfathered. But, you know, when I moved into Kirtland before I lived here, you know, sometimes people have no idea what they're buying. They don't understand that they have to put, not, and this doesn't affect the Concord area, but, you know, our area. They don't understand septic and lights, and they think, oh, you know, everything's here. So I think everybody should do due diligence when they buy a lot. You know, the zoning board set yard setbacks, back setbacks, and I just think to keep the integrity of the community, we should follow our setbacks. I don't know what's going to happen. I think Mr. Tosi has to cut down every tree on that property. You talk about an open canopy, what is that going to do to that lot? And one of you mentioned the essential character of the neighborhood. When you look at those pictures, and I can't talk for everybody in the neighborhood because I didn't go up and down all the other streets. I just took pictures of our cul-de-sac. But I don't think there's anybody in the neighborhood that has their house that close to the road or any other neighbor in the whole development. So, thank you for your time.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And Mr. Black as well. Will 5 feet from the side, will that satisfy you?
Mr. Black, you have to come back up, please. And, ma'am, please stay up there as well. I guess Chris is asking that question about.
Could you repeat that?
The 15-foot side setback, you seem to be very concerned that it's so close to your driveway, and I understand that. Will 5 feet make a big difference?
Well, I think the 15 feet, if in fact it were being adhered to, would be
Would be fine with you?
under current zoning, it would fit. However, right now, what they're requesting is that it only be 10.
But that's not what
which-
she's asking you.
Okay.
Is 5 feet, if it's 15 feet, as required in the zoning as it is now, is that acceptable to you?
Well, you can't do anything else. That's the zoning
No,
law.
no,
So
but
it's-
that's not what I'm
so
asking.
Yes
That's
or
okay
no?
with you?
It's-
Yes, the 15
Okay.
feet, yes.
You
because
accept the
it's law.
zoning as it
Yes,
is the
if
question.
If they're
Okay.
meeting the
you.
requirements rather than attempting to alter
That's
them,
what
that's
she's
fine.
doing.
I mean, I can't speak for Mr. Black, I can only speak for myself, because, you know, that's the setback requirement.
So the front setback, the 50-foot that they're asking for 45, will the 5 feet alter the neighborhood?
From an appearance standpoint,
appearance?
because they're at the arc.
5 feet.
Yes.
Look at how far
It's
those
because
houses
of,
are.
because of the arc in the cul-de-sac.
Gary, and this is for me, and I'm missing it, and I've been staring at this thing for a weekend today. The front yard setback, where is it exactly?
That's right from that point, right to then the right way right here. That's 45 feet,
This is 45.
right from there.
Can you speak
up?
Yes.
He's pointing to the map, so 50 would be,
50 would be another 5 foot back from there, across the corner.
sorry, no.
120.
I mean, literally,
Quarter
okay.
inch.
So that, it's not only, I understand, thank you, Harry. So what we're saying is that 45 is this corner of the driveway. It's not, the whole house isn't within the 45 feet, it's the corner of the garage.
It's 2 feet of the garage.
2 feet of the garage, thank you.
Right.
2 feet of the garage into that front yard setback is what we have issue.
If we're to back up 5 feet, would be at the same frontage distance setback as the rest of our homes on that entire side of the
But
cul-de-sac.
with the understanding that it might not even be 5, it may be 2 feet of backing up, but the issue is then that when we back it up 2 feet, it puts them to, you know, the right parent setback. I'm just trying to understand
Right.
what's more important to you, to Mr. Leskovec, and to the board. So moving the house back to get 2 feet of the corner of the garage out of that 50-foot front yard setback, because the rest of the house is out, it's just that one corner of the garage, that's what you have issue with?
Well, I know you probably think that that's really being picky-uni, and maybe it is.
Maybe
But
it is,
if,
but
you know, and I can't speak for what the zoning department has done for other houses in that neighborhood, because I didn't do due diligence to see if anybody else has gotten a front yard or a side yard or a side, you know, backyard setback. So I can't talk to that.
And it really doesn't matter, we take these on a case-by-case basis, and there's been plenty of people that come through here in my short term on the board that have gotten front yard setbacks. I have one more question for Mr. Black, if you would. If it was to stay as a 10-foot side yard setback, just throwing the question out there, is there anything that could be done to appease you in that 10 feet, or no?
I don't know that you could put up sufficient shrubbery or whatever to
Okay.
act as an interface that would keep us from literally opening a garage door or having company come in, because we do have a back porch also,
Okay,
that they wouldn't be walking right down the side, blank side of a house.
okay. But if he moves it 15 feet, you understand he doesn't have to put in any landscape?
He doesn't have to put in anything, and
Fence, nothing, okay.
that's not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, that helps me understand. Does anyone have any other questions for?
No, and Mr. Black, the reason I asked you the question earlier that your concrete driveway's on the property lines, I presume you got a variance to put it there to begin with?
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you.
because we were one of the first homes built back there.
To build your dream home.
To get him there.
Yep,
Did you hear,
that's-
Brandon, can you repeat your question?
Do you have to have, he told me you got a variance to put his concrete driveway on the property line.
You did.
I believe all of that was cleared through our builder, yes.
Okay.
I'm not aware of a variance granted for a driveway.
For a driveway, that was my question.
Driveway setback
Okay.
is 3 feet for the zoning
3,
resolution.
okay.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Is anyone else here speaking for or against this appeal? Come on up. Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Haddock. I live at 7618 Kenneth Drive, right around the corner from where the property's in question.
You've been
And
sworn in?
I have been sworn in. I just wanted to state for the record, I'm against the variances proposed for all of the reasons Doug explained. I wouldn't want a house parallel to my driveway 10 feet away. It's just too close. I think that the house should be built within the established, city ordinances that you have. The house is either too big, should be made smaller to fit, or build it somewhere else. That's my opinion.
Okay,
So, anyhow,
thank you.
I just want to support the blacks in their
No, we're
position.
happy to have you come up here and voice your opinion.
Okay.
One at a time.
My name's Ed McCarthy. I live at 11801 Brooklyn Court. We are lot 30.
Okay, gotcha.
And again, we're here, my wife and I, to support blacks as well. The concept of that 5-foot garage, it's not just the 5-foot garage as you would hack off that 5 feet and then it would be okay. The concept would be that the whole house would go back 5 feet. And in that cul-de-sac, it would make a world of difference. Because every house is back 50, 75, mine's back 150, 200 feet. It's
Sir,
going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Just so you
I know.
understand that
I know.
when those homes were built, we didn't have these riparian setbacks. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have a riparian area, you may or may not. So if you were to come and build that same house on your lot, potentially, and I don't know, I haven't looked at your lot, you might be in the same circumstance that they are
No,
right now.
I understand, but-
And they're just trying to work within what,
And honestly, for the cul-de-sac, for the neighborhood, the house is too big for the lot,
okay.
period. I met the gentleman, I enjoyed speaking to him and his wife, but the house they're putting on there is just too big for the neighborhood on that lot with the present existing homes.
Okay. All
And we
right.
have a lot of soil and water issues that I'd love to talk about, but I don't think my issues affect those issues.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Wesley Rand. I live at 11801 Brooklyn Way. I'm sublot 31, next to Ed and Dory. I've been sworn in and came directly from soccer practice, so I apologize, the casual attire. As far as, I have to say, house-wise, I commend the wonderful job you've done looking and working to try and fit it on that lot. What I want to talk about is not really the house on the lot. I think the 5 feet on the side and that it's deep, and the driveway being on the lot line, there's two variances there if they're both requested, and what you would have is, I don't think for the neighborhood that is what we really strive to get. Everybody's pretty far set back, as they've already spoken about. So I do support that side of the house, looking to be pushed back. But my main concern is just that lot. So I do want to talk about the soil and water because I'm the catch point for everything that has been introduced into our water easement from Stone Ridge. I am on the side of the driveway with the culvert that I have to clean out, and labor, I have taken logs as big as this bench, 8 to 10 of them, moved them out of the stormwater easement because one day I sat and looked and said, it's awfully dry. Last summer, we've had 0 rain. Why is there water trickling through here? It's never been here. And talking to different, and I believe it was George Haddon, Lake County Engineers, Stone Ridge has put in stormwater easement, has caught everything, and has dumped it in back to the back of our neighborhood into an area that has never had water dumped into it. Flows through there, flows back behind Mr. Haddock's house, comes together at Y, runs behind the Campbell's house, comes in front of my house, hits this culvert, and I have a video on my phone where the water that was flowing last Tuesday, I believe, when we had that really, really, really heavy rain, it was overpowering that. Since we've moved in, it was flat, and there's only 6 inches of the top of that culvert, which is about this big, that was open. There's logs across it. I used manual labor to get all that out. And since then, where it was flat, there's now about a section about this wide, and at points about this deep from the water once Stone Ridge was open, that is cut through our sandy, silty soil. And that part scares me, and relating that to the issue of this lot is, I want them to have the ability to join the neighborhood and to build their dream home, because we've done the same thing. But with all this water that's introduced in Stone Ridge, the whole second half hasn't even opened yet. And I was told there's supposed to be a retention pond, but I haven't found one yet. All I know is George Haddon originally told me the pipe was supposed to catch, dump into the ravine in Cali Woods behind my house on John Manfroni's lot, but it managed somehow to make it and be put into the wrong one. And then I was told later, oh, well, I just misread the map. Well, now it's in, the roads are paved, all this water's flowing. The whole second half of Stone Ridge, which is higher elevation, goes all the way up the Girdled Road. And when that all becomes hardscape, if that all gets literally coming down, the pipe that's underneath our shared driveway and on my side, it doesn't stand a chance. The part that does go through and increases through is going to run through the back of their property. It's going to run on the north, like the northeast portion, and then it curves around. And that part, looking off of the McCarthy's property, there is fresh erosion that's a pretty good size. I have a picture on my phone. It's almost about the size of this wall on the back portion of their property, where not only has part of it fallen, but it has also undercut the bank for a good 10 to 15 feet. So it kind of looks like almost like a little cave that opened. And then starting about 2 feet high and running underneath the tree and other stuff, it goes back, undercuts it by about 2 feet. And just that, as you said earlier, water is always an issue. I'm not an expert, but the amount of volume that is flowing through compared to what used to is, it's not even, the percentage increase is amazing. We still have water flowing now, and we never did. So, and that's something that, I don't even know if you realize that, because this is also pretty new when Stone Ridge just opened it. And, So that going through there, that's my concern. You know, and I actually have some calls into the engineer's office and the soil and water because what happened the other day on Tuesday when I saw it, you know, that, I'm afraid of those downstream effects.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone have any questions from the board?
Oh, and just relating that to also, you know, with the plans, I haven't, other than the outline of the house, you know, that lot, if a lot of those huge, massive trees get moved and taken away, and there's a basement put in there, you know, I'm not an engineer, but if there's a basement that's put in there, I would sure hope that it would somehow add to the stability of that hill, right at that riparian setback, versus nobody, and obviously you wouldn't want to build, you know, a dream home and have it where it had, you know, some sort of foundation issue or cause, you know, any type of erosion behind you. But my concern from that is the amount of water that's flowing through there. And
Sir, I'm going to ask
just
you to
the-
direct your
sorry.
comments to the board.
Yeah.
My concern is just that house on that lot. You know, it's not the house, it's that lot that scares me.
Okay. Noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Angie Black, and I live at 11785 Brooklyn, next door to the proposed lot that they're building. I just want to correct my husband. We did not get a variance when we put our driveway on that lot. It was in code to do that, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here speaking for or against this appeal that'd like to come up? Chad, unfortunately, I'm going to ask you to come up. And have you had a chance to look at this before?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Heather, for sending that over.
Can I ask a question before, Chad, before you start? I'm sorry. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
What's, maybe I'm missing, what's the square footage of the home?
The first, it's 3,900.
3,900?
Yeah, the first floor is 3,033.
And then, okay, I'm sorry. That's all I had. Sorry, Chad.
Make one comment. Before we ever bought the lot, we had people come down. We had somebody, landscaper, for the erosion issue, because I was very nervous about having it on a hill. So we did have all of that done before.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we can't really review or approve any of the engineering. That's not really why we're here.
So another lot in the subdivision that was platted long before the riparian setbacks.
You've been
So
sworn in, Chad.
I gotta do it again.
Okay.
Chad Edgar, Lake County Soil and Water, I've been sworn in. I thought once was good from the
Okay.
start.
I guess I've been corrected by my counsel here.
All right.
That's for each case. Okay.
So, obviously, we've had the discussion before. It's kind of tough when you've got these lots that have building envelopes laid out long before the riparian setbacks. So, it's rather difficult to try and shoehorn houses that are going to fit that neighborhood into the existing lot without encroaching into that riparian setback in some manner or other setbacks. I don't know if the house is at the minimum square footage that Concord requires, if there is a minimum square footage, and if that could be something that could be done. But in terms of the riparian setback itself, it's a minimum encroachment. It's up high. We're not dealing with any grading or filling in the floodplain. So probably not too concerned in this one. My biggest concern is with the stability of that stream throughout the subdivision. It is pretty severe, pretty substantial in all those tributaries. So any effort to move that house further away from that stream, I would encourage you to consider that. I know there's other competing factors that you want to consider, but in terms of stability, I get phone calls quite often from people in that neighborhood that are dealing with erosion issues, slope stability issues. So the further you can move that house from that slope, the better.
Yeah, we're up against it, and we're already pushed 5 feet over on the other property. Okay. You guys got questions for Chad? Any questions for Chad?
No, I have another question for Mr. Jones. I guess Harry, do you see any, and I know, I'm sure you've engineered this to no end, but other than cutting down the square footage, I mean, do you see any other possibilities on this particular lot to move the home in any other direction to accommodate these issues?
I really agree with what Chad said, you know, the farther we get away from repairing for that, because it's a 30-foot drop there down by that creek.
Yeah.
You know, certainly-
30 foot, I'm sorry?
It's a 30-foot fall
Yeah.
from the existing ground to the center of the creek. So, you know, by moving it, we're only slightly into the riparian setback as we are. So, you know, if we move the house to the east, you know, away from Mrs. Black's property to 15 foot, then we're 5 foot closer to that embankment. And if it was my brother, I'd rather keep it to the 10-foot side yard than the minimal riparian setback variance.
How much are we in the riparian right now?
You're 5 feet within the right.
5 feet in the riparian?
It's a couple feet. It kind of varies throughout the house. It's quite
Yeah, if you, yeah, like here, you're
kind of
in it,
meanders, right.
and then you're out of it, and then you're back in it a little bit.
I think we're just requesting a 5-foot variance to the 45. Instead
Yeah,
of-
because if,
We didn't specifically say, you know, foot here, foot there, foot and a half.
yeah, in theory, you could shoot the house over, possibly. I'm
Exactly.
in 2 feet, you know,
Exactly.
that way, because you're
Right.
requesting 5 feet.
Exactly. I mean, we would be agreeable to that, to move it, if that would be your choice.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard to say, is shifting the whole, Chad would say the thing, shifting the whole house 5 feet towards the riparian, you know, what's that impact? We can't quantify that
Yeah,
versus,
right.
you know, leaving it, you know, where it's at and trying to reduce that. We gotta figure that out, I suppose. Just so it's clear, what he's
Right.
saying is, there's a riparian setback here. They're requesting a 5-foot variance, but the house may not necessarily be using all 5 feet, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet, or not.
I have a question for Mr. Rand.
Yes.
Can you please come up, sir?
So Wes, as I understand, I mean, I know your house is over a little bit of a distance, and so the other folks have concerns and questions on the setbacks as far as their homes and from the cul-de-sac. I think if I'm understanding you correctly, and you said it very clearly and adequately, is your biggest concern, of course, is with the, everything down there with the creek and everything else that's going on with the riparian setback and so on. The concern, if I heard you correctly too, is more for the homeowners that are trying to build this house because of what your knowledge is of that particular area. Am I understanding you correctly, and how that could impact everybody else?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I characterized, I didn't want to mischaracterize you in any way. I mean, the riparian setback as it is goes in between 5 foot down to nothing. But I think what you highlighted and some of what Chad's talked about is that this whole area is severely compromised now because of another development up the road off of Girdle Road, which has rendered everything problematic.
And only half developed.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Wes. I just
Very
wanted to
welcome.
clarify that.
Just one comment in reference to that. Each one of the lots up there do have a storm sewer connection to where we can take the roof runoff instead of doing splash blocks. We can take it all out to the street. So really, we're reducing the water coming down the hill to that ravine, probably 80%.
It's going to be one of my questions. You can divert everything, so that's not an issue as far
Right.
as emptying anything more into that creek?
Exactly. Yeah, we can take all the roof, because we have a storm connection, and that's what our plan was anyway.
Okay.
So we can take all the gutters out to the road.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Am I allowed?
You have
You
to
have to
the
come up
podium.
and speak if you have anything to add.
It wasn't for the board. It was, am I allowed to ask Mr. Jones a question? Well, I'm just.
If he wants to answer, your questions need to be
Well,
directed to the board.
and I don't, he's the surveyor, so the point I was trying to make to you people, because I don't know if any of you have walked the property. The lots in Noble Ridge are 1 acre. But the portion of the lot that he bought is not 1 acre that's buildable. I'd like, if Mr. Jones doesn't mind, could you tell me what that area is, acreage-wise, that house is for?
I really-
1/3, 1/2?
Probably a third, maybe a little more, 40%. But I mean, typically, look at these lots anyway, you know, they're zoned based upon the requirement for the township.
Right,
You know, it doesn't mean you have to build on the whole lot.
right, well, you can't build on the whole lot.
Exactly.
He can only build on 1/3 of the lot, because the rest of the acre is over the ravine. So I just wanted to try to clarify, make some things clear to you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Excuse me. I appreciate Doug coming up, or Wes coming up and speaking to the creek that comes through. It hasn't been 8 years that we've been there. You have a picture up there that shows an oak tree right next to the creek, that the oak tree, the mulch around it is starting to go down into the creek. You could get two people walking hand in hand this far apart, past there on the left side of that tree. That's how much that has regressed.
Tell me if I'm stepping out of line here. What's happening with that creek is a much larger, bigger issue than
It is, but
what we're dealing with here right now.
But the direction of the water
That they said that they would take to the
what
sewer.
Wes spoke to.
Mm-hmm.
If that water goes to the left, as you're looking at it, it's going to take out the area that they are going to build on. And I say that because it's coming down on my side at this point, and I'm physically unable to do anything about it. Pieces of my lawn as big as this room are falling into that creek.
I'm sure, and then that's part of the reason we have these riparian
It's going to
setbacks in
happen on
place.
the other side too, as soon as I get that fixed and that water gets directed
Yeah,
the other way.
and it may, yeah. And then I don't think, I don't know, and I guess we don't know if this house is really gonna make that any worse or better. I think there's a lot of other things that are going on, and that's my assumption, that are causing that to occur. We can't, and I understand that's a concern, that's a concern all through Concord Township. And if that's really an issue in this neighborhood, I think you guys can reach out to a county engineer, and Heather can help get in contact with those folks. We can't do anything with this board to solve the flooding issues in Old Lake. I wish we could, but we can't. I'm sorry.
Could I make a statement, please?
If you would, please come up. Somebody new. Name and address and...
Yes, I'm Doreen McCarthy. I live at 11801 Brooklyn Court in Concord Township, and yes, I was sworn in. These are very nice people, and, I think all of us have been trying to make it clear, we would like to have you in the neighborhood.
Please adjust the board so we can...
Okay. We're looking for solutions, obviously. There are concerns here, and, I don't know, because I'm very familiar with that particular lot, because part of our front part of the lot is right next to theirs, and I am nervous because of the erosion, but I guess when I'm thinking about other options for these folks that could maybe solve everybody's problems, they're putting in a house with a very large footprint. Is there any possibility that they could consider perhaps still coming up with the same size house, the 3,900 square feet, but have it be a little less of a footprint and put some of that extra space up onto the second floor? Yes, I'm sure it would change the drawings, but those are things that architects can do all the time, and wondering whether that might be an option that could be considered also, that would allow them to build their dream house and yet not cause problems, whether it has to do with the zoning requirements or with erosion problems.
And I'll let the homeowner correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to speak for him for a second. What I heard them say is that they did reduce the footprint and did cantilever the home 2 feet and reduce that impact. And I'm going to assume that they've already put forth a good effort to incur some additional expense to create a home that cantilevers 2 feet.
Is this a ranch?
Originally started out as a ranch, and we ended up moving our boys' 2 bedrooms and a bathroom up above the garage, trying to condense them.
Thank you.
Living in a similarly sized home, our footprint on a much larger lot is 2,300 square feet, and we put the rest of our approximately approximately 1,000 square feet up on the upper floor. It made a smaller footprint and left us still with the same size home. That is why I raised it, because I said I'm looking for everyone to win in this situation.
Yeah, so are we, thank you.
I guess it's kind of...
Yeah, is there anyone else that's speaking that'd like to come up? No, stay up, ma'am, that's okay. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the reason that we are keeping 2 bedrooms down there is because of our parents. So the reason we are rebuilding a home is so that we can have a master on the first floor, but also with our parents, they can't do the steps. And that's the other reason we were looking at building, was so that we could move another bedroom down on that first floor. So we really did try to make as many accommodations as we could as far as what we needed, but also trying to fit that blueprints.
Okay, thank you. You guys have any more questions up here? Brandon? All right, okay. Well, I guess I can get this out of my way. Okay, if there's no more questions, there's no one else speaking for or against appeal. The public hearing for variance number 2017-10 is now closed to the public. I will entertain a motion to approve variance number 2017-10.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The approval of variance number 2017-10 has been moved and second. Open for discussion on the board. Brandon went first last time, so I'm going to let Blair go first.
Okay, thank you.
Can't stay this time.
So we are dealing, my primary concern here is with the riparian setback and the size of the variance that's being requested to implement here. And we've dealt with several situations where we've had to try to make the best of what the riparian setback dictates for a certain property. And it's my belief that the Leskozics have really done the best they can with this particular piece of property. Short of making the home smaller, short of doing something very drastic, I don't see that there's anything else that they can do with the property.
I would argue that they've already tried to make things smaller with some of the work that they've done with expanding the lower footprint. And that 5-yard riparian setback, they're impacting a small segment. It's not 5 across the whole side of the yard. It's small sections that encroach into that 5-yard setback.
Agreed. And the purpose of the resolution is to have these parameters, and, everything's not black and white. That's why the Board of Zoning Appeals exists, so that we can address some of these concerns, and exceptions can be made at times when they're warranted.
Well, there's no question about it that they purchased the home, closed on the home before this was enacted. And so under that specific term of the riparian setback, I would say, as we found before, they're not in violation. They're grandfathered in, as we found for so many other people. Their circumstances are far different than even the last appeal and some others. So on that particular issue, I would agree with all of you. I think, and the impact on it is terribly minimal. So on that particular element, we've been pretty consistent on that, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair, and I think it's important for everybody to know, whether I'm right or wrong, and have lots of thoughts, is that if this were to go before a court of common pleas, and no one knows what could happen, no one has that crystal ball, as we all like to talk about, but I'd say they have a pretty good argument. Just my 2 cents on the riparian.
Okay. I don't have anything more to add. You guys have any other discussion? Yes.
Well, I think Yvonne made a good point too, and in full disclosure, I've known Wes Rand for a long time, and I'm very fond of him, and I know Skip lives in the neighborhood, so this one's a unique situation, and I think that clearly what Mr. Rand is indicating is absolutely true, and it's a hardship for the whole community. But as you said, none of that impacts our decision on this, and I appreciate, that's why I wanted to know what Wes's statements were and what his concerns were, because in fact that impacts the neighborhood and impacts a subject that is probably a little bit different from us, unless I'm not understanding something. But I think we still have to consider a lot of the some of the other elements here too, and I know that in the past when it comes to variances, we're all throughout Concord, minimal variances and things, we've been pretty consistent with granting. So this is a difficult one, though, in light of the number of people that speak against it.
You sure you want to live in this neighborhood? Some of these neighbors aren't very nice. I hope you'll all be neighborly later.
Okay, well, I'm gonna, the question is approval of variance number, appeal number 2017-10, a yes vote is for the approval of the variance, a no vote denies the variance. Heather, please.
Wait a minute. We have, there's, yeah, there's more than just one here.
But it's all rolled into one, isn't it?
There's two variances.
Stephanie.
Oh, I'm
It's-
sorry.
I mean, it's
There's
a
one
variance from the
number in front
riparian
of me.
setback and a variance from the table of, from the table
Do you
15.041,
want me
which
to
has
read
the
the-
setbacks.
Should I read the whole thing? Okay, I will read the whole thing. The question is on approval of variance appeal number 2017-10. Mr. Dan, how do you say it? Leskozek, sorry, is requesting a variance from section 17.04B, 17.078 to allow the construction of a single dwelling with a 45-foot riparian setback, variance number 1, in lieu of the 50-foot required for the property located at 11795 Brooklyn Way, and being permanent parcel number 08-A-004-F-00-006-0. Second variance is requested from section 15.04B, table 15.04-1 to allow for a 45-foot front building setback in lieu of the 50-foot required, and a third variance for a 10-foot side yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot required. A yes vote is for the approval of all the variances.
You understand?
Yeah, no, I think we've got to vote on these individually, don't we?
You're voting on the table,
There's
the
one
requirements of the
application,
table.
so.
One application,
Okay,
but there's a
all right.
variance too.
Okay, well, I'm just concerned, if anybody from the board has any comments on the other side,
Requirements for the
no.
setback, so it's one variance.
It's one variance. I'm good with voting at it as one.
I am.
Are you guys okay
Yes.
as one?
Yes.
Are you good as?
Okay, I guess my thought was we didn't really discuss all of the, although it's one, we didn't discuss all the elements of it. And if anybody wanted to discuss that, then that was what I,
It's still open for discussion on the board. We haven't. Is there anything you want to discuss on any of the other variances? I assume that we all knew that we can discuss all three.
that's fine.
All right. A yes vote is for the approval of the variances I just read, and no vote denies the variance. Heather, please call the vote.
Mr. Dines.
I'm not sure yet. If you want to call somebody else, I'm still thinking.
Mr. Valentic.
Yes.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yes.
Ms. Gerald.
Yes.
And Mr. Dines.
No.
Your variance has been approved. Thank you. Okay, if you're gonna leave, please see Heather before you go. Next on the agenda is conditional use permit 2017-3.
I am.
Okay. 2017-3, Mr. Ely Chamun.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, we're gonna recess again.
We are?
Yeah.
Nancy, you can...